So like I mentioned before, this is the first webinar. We will be continuing these webinars every week. Like I said, this is the very first one. So this topic here is how can sleep affect your well-being? So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm just going to do an introduction of myself. So I'm the Health and Wellbeing Graduate Assistant through Campus Recreation. My graduate program is counselor education. My specialization is clinical mental health counseling. I also do my counseling intern at Marietta College, which is provided through my graduate program. At Marietta College, I provide therapeutic services to Marietta College students. Just want to get a small, brief introduction of myself and my role as a student here at Ohio University. So there's some topics that we are going to address today are how can sleep benefit your physical health? How can sleep benefit your mental health? Sleep and academic performance. And I will also touch base a little bit about potentially sleep and maybe work-life balance as well as I'm talking through this, and also negative effects of not getting enough sleep. So these are topics here that I think would be very beneficial to people's well-being and how it impacts when it comes to sleep. And there's also other environmental factors that I may say during this presentation, but I think these topics here are very important to address here. So first off, we're going to talk about physical benefits of sleep. And some of this information you may already know, but some of the information you guys may not already know. So the first thing I'm going to touch base on, sleep may assist in weight loss. Now, the key word here is assist. And what I mean by that is it may in regards in weight loss, it may not. It also depends on how much sleep you get. So as you can see here on the presentation, it says researchers found that people who sleep fewer than 7 hours per night are more than likely to be overweight or obese. There's more scientific information to that, obviously, but researchers have found that if you do get less than 7 hours of sleep per night, you are more than likely to be overweight or obese. Sleep helps the body repair itself. You know, it's a time to relax. It's also a time during which the body at work repairing damage and caused by physical stress to the body. And that could be from just a simple workout, that could be from school, that could be from work, that could be a variety of things. It really helps the body break down a lot of things and kind of helps the body repair itself to get ready for the next day to do the same day-to-day operations that your body may be used to or maybe not even be used to. So it can actually maximize your athletic performance. Studies shown that longer sleep was shown to significantly improve speed, accuracy, reaction times, and mental well-being. Now, I'm gonna touch base a little bit about athletic performance. I know not all of us are athletes, but we may still compare ourselves as an athlete still. So just because you're not an athlete doesn't mean you don't relate to this. If you love to work out and be physically active, you know, go on a walk, ride a bike, or lift weights and that stuff, you could definitely relate to this for sure. And also is believed to reduce the chances of developing a broad range of life-threatening diseases such as cancer. And me being in the clinical mental health counseling program, that's something that's very true. Not only just cancer, but it could be a variety of diseases. You could get sleep disorders, such as like sleep apnea, or is a perfect example of a sleep disorder. And just getting the sleep you need every night is very important to your health as remaining active and eating a healthy diet as well. So this is just a small picture of physical benefits. This kind of touches base on what happens with physical benefits and what happens if even some stuff that if you don't get enough sleep, like I mentioned before. So like it says here, decrease obesity, increases HDL cholesterol, decreases the risk of some cancer. Example is breast cancer. Improves your immune system, which is what we need during this time because of the COVID-19. Decreases blood pressure, increases slow wave sleep, and most importantly, enhances increase the lifespan, which you know we all want to live as much as long as we can and be there with family and friends, and just have a very good life. Now here we are going to touch base middle benefits of sleep. So some of this stuff, like I already said before, you guys already know, but some of this stuff I believe will really benefit your mental health and your mental well-being, mental wellness, whatever you want to call it. So it improves your concentration and memory. So let's say, for an example, you get less than 7 hours of sleep, and let's say you have a meeting at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., whatever it is, more than likely your attention span may not be there fully, and you may not be able to process information. You may forget information from the previous meeting. You may not be prepared to present any issues or concerns that the meeting is asking you to do. So that's just a perfect example of why is it important to get enough sleep for your concentration and memory. So there's 3 stages of memory that I also want to touch base on. So we have sensory, and we have short-term memory, and we have long-term memory. And some of these things you have already had heard before from classes and interacting with people, and even listening to other different well-being webinars or different resources that you might have been involved in. So let's talk about sensory. Sensory is introducing information to the brain. So that's how everything gets started. It holds information for a brief period of time. This information can be just for a hot second, it's like how I like to call it. And it gets got to do your 5 senses as well. So we don't talk about short-term memory. So memory starts to strengthen. That's when it really starts to being able to hold that memory, and it's longer than a brief period of time. And you're actively thinking about that memory, whatever it is. So, and then next thing you know, we have long-term memory, and that's when it gets stored forever. It can hold as much amount of information as possible. That's kind of how our brain works. And that's just kind of how our brain functions. So it also allows our brains to consolidate our memory and process information, what goes along with the 3 stages of memory. So that's kind of it's similar in a variety of ways, but I think it's important to put that in there twice so people can understand what I'm talking about here. And then it sharpens your attention span. And obviously, when we lack sleep, it's hard to process and contain information, like I mentioned for in that example of, if you get up in the morning and you didn't have a good night's sleep, then your attention span is not there. You're not able to just do the things that you enjoy doing, you love to do, and next thing you know, that can even affect you throughout the whole day as well. And it lowers your stress levels. And when it comes to stress, there's a variety in environmental factors that comes with stress. But one of the main reasons why stress happens is because of lack of sleep. And it's very simple. The less sleep you get, the more stress you get. That's just plain and simple. And it's very important to understand how important stress is, especially with our lives. And yes, stress can be a good thing. And I will actually talk about managing student stress in the next webinar. So I'm not going to go more into depth of stress, but it's really important to know that sleep plays a major factor into stress and vice versa as well. Now, it lowers your risk of serious health problems. Some of these examples are diabetes, heart disease, and sleep disorders. I already mentioned some sleep disorders. Diabetes is a major one. Heart disease is also a major one as well. So this is just another chart or graph or picture, whatever you want to call it, that I think was very important. I'm not going to go too in depth of this, but I think this just shows important information. As you can see, the topic of this is sleep allows your brain to detox. And what I mean by detox is it repairs itself. It helps the body restore of all of the things that you did of that day. And like I mentioned earlier, the information, it allows the body to repair. It allows the body to just relax and rest. And that's what you really need in order to do the things you enjoy doing the next day, and so on and so on. So I'm not going to go into in depth with this, but I think this is just very important for you guys to see and look at. And if you want to jot down notes, of course, you're more than welcome to, because it kind of more goes in depth of the nervous system and all that stuff. So just something that I thought was really cool to at least address a little bit, so you guys can just look at it and see, wow, this is what it really does to my brain if I do get enough sleep. So next, we are going to talk about how can sleep affect your academic performance. Like I already mentioned before, college students should get 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. Why is this the case? Because it can affect your mood, your energy level, and ability to focus, concentrate, and learn. And that's what college is all about. We want to learn, we want to gain as much knowledge as possible. And if you don't get enough sleep, it really affects your academic performance. And when it comes to exams, it could be from quizzes, it could even just be from not being able to be active in class when it's a class that may be discussion based. You may not potentially cannot even go to class because you lack the sleep. Now, there's other environmental factors to this. You might have a job where you work at night and all that stuff, but I think that's for another discussion as well. And yeah, so studies have shown that students who score higher on quizzes and exams when there was quality of sleep, factors like late nights out, increased alcohol consumption, irregular sleep schedule, from getting the quality and quantity of sleep needed to support positive academic performance. Next thing we'll talk about is inadequate sleep. Decreases general alertness and impairs attention, resulting in slow cognitive processing. Now, what do I mean by slow cognitive processing? Well, let's give an example of, let's say you had to take a test, you were up all night, you had a test, exam, quiz the next morning. More than likely, you've been preparing for and you think you're ready, but obviously you didn't get enough sleep. Well, at that case, then your mental and your brain won't be able to process that information as quickly as you would like for you to be for it to be processed. And it also depends on how long you have to take the test. But let's say you have, let's say it's a quiz, right? And you only have 15 minutes for that quiz, and it's a 20 question quiz. Well, I'm not saying that's realistic, but I'm just giving an example. Then more than likely, your brain won't be able to process that information that you've been trying to learn for that particular quiz. And next thing you know, you're taking the whole 15 minutes or even longer to answer questions. And next thing you know, you may not even be able to answer those questions. So that's why it is very important to get sleep and being able to get that very good habits of a good sleep routine and all that stuff. Excuse me. And other things, it can potentially lead to other environmental factors like I keep mentioning: stress, anxiety, job performance, and even social neglect. So with social neglect, when you don't get enough sleep, and and it could really affect others as well. And what I mean by that is you're not being able to interact with people. You're not being able to have those good relationships with people. And then next thing you know, your friends or your family are worried about you and they think there's something potentially maybe wrong with you. Or just depending on how you are as an individual, if you don't get enough sleep, then feelings might come out. You might be angry when you don't get enough sleep. You might be irritability, aggression. Just those are some emotions that may come into play when you don't get enough sleep. So I think it's very important. And then with job performance, I mentioned this a little bit. I do want to touch base on this a little bit because some of us do, we work and we might play a sport and we do have a job. Well, kind of plays, job is performance, academic performance, you should take into account as the same thing. And what I mean by that is the importance of it. If you want to perform in the classroom, you should want to perform at your job. And, because that makes us better as people. And the whole point of this is to learn. And I think that's very important to understand that. Now, with stress and anxiety, there's more that come to it. I already talked about stress a little bit. With anxiety, there's more things that could come to it. It can even lead to panic attacks, and it can even lead to depression, which is something that I didn't even mention. So that's something you want to take into account as well when it comes to how can sleep affect your academic performance. Now, this is just another chart that I thought was very cool to see. And as you can see here, sleep is the third largest factor affecting college students' academic performance. As you can see here at the left, it has the percentages. So 33% is stress, 26.5% is anxiety, 21.8% is sleep difficulties, and 18.7% is depression. Now you see on the right here, it says 5 out of 10 college students reported having more than average stress in the last 12 months, and that plays into factors of not getting enough sleep. And then, I'm greatly apologize for that. 8.7 out of 10 college students felt overwhelmed by how they had to do in the last 12 months. So that's a very high number. And I think at this point in time, it may even be higher because of the fact that we're going through this challenging time. So now let's talk about the negative effects of not getting enough sleep. So it can cause some serious mental health concerns, such as depression, anxiety, sleep disorders, more in depth of sleep disorders, sleep apnea, insomnia, and narcolepsy. I kind of want to touch base on sleep disorders. I feel like people don't know maybe enough information on what these sleep disorders are. So sleep apnea, which I have a family member who actually has sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is when you stop breathing in your sleep. And there's treatment for it, of course, thank God. And for an example, that family member is my grandmother. A little self-disclosure. She sleeps with a machine, and it helps her breathe while she sleeps. The other one is insomnia, which is having a hard time falling asleep, difficult time waking up. Those are the best perfect example. That's one of the ones that people know more common than other. Narcolepsy is probably the most dangerous one out of these three. I know sleep apnea and insomnia are dangerous too, but just my personal opinion, I think narcolepsy is the most dangerous, just based on what I have learned in my mental health counseling program. And why is it so dangerous? Because you can fall asleep anywhere. You could be behind the wheel, and next thing you know, you fall asleep, and next thing you know, more bad happens. And we don't want that. So I kind of want to touch base on those three things first because a lot of people I feel like potentially may lack the knowledge of sleep disorders and not getting enough sleep can lead to that. And obviously, like I mentioned, depression, anxiety. Also, with depression, there could comes more into it. It could lead from eating disorders, like I mentioned before, panic attacks, body image issues. Because if you don't get enough sleep, more than likely you may, like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, overweight and obesity comes into play. And and hopefully this happens to nobody in this world, but even that can even lead to suicide ideation. And and at the end of the day, we just don't want that. And I mentioned before, it's a greater likelihood for car accidents, and car accidents is a major issue nowadays with drunk driving and all that stuff. But we're not talking about that. But drowsy driving accounts for thousands of crashes, injuries, and fatalities each year, and that number goes up every year, unfortunately. So I want to take into account making sure that once you go behind the wheel, not only are you putting yourself at danger, but you're putting others at danger as well. Lack of sleep can also affect your immune system, which during this time is very important because of the COVID-19. And that is designed to protect you from infections like the common cold, the flu, and other ailments. And the common cold and the flu are the main common factors of the COVID-19. So I think that's super important right now to get those 7 to 9 hours of sleep and being able to be healthy and have a good well-being and live a healthy lifestyle so that we can be, more importantly, be ourselves. And that's super important. And a lot of people don't know this, but lack of sleep has a direct impact on the skin. Improper sleep pattern leads to excessive stress, which causes the body to produce more of the hormone cortisol. And this hormone breaks down the protein in the skin that keeps it elastic and smooth. That's a research that a lot of people don't know about at this very moment. And there's research going on more about it. We're learning more about it as a counselor in my grad program. And people don't understand that just getting enough sleep can have an impact on skin. And I've read about this before, and I learned about this just doing research on my own and just learning more about sleep and lack of sleep and that stuff. It can lead to skin cancer as well. So it's very important that not only just depression, anxiety, the mental health concerns, and your academic performance, job performance, and all that stuff, it can also put an effect to your skin. And I feel like I wanted to mention that because of the fact that individuals may or they may not know about that. So these are just some resources that I think will be very helpful when it comes to specifically how can sleep impact your well-being. So obviously we got some websites here. I also want to take into account that I do well-being tips every week. Actually, a well-being tip came out today, which talks about sleep, which is perfect timing. In the previous week, the first one was social support, and the second one was healthy eating. Obviously, this week was sleep, and we have a couple more coming in the next few weeks. So please check those out. Those are just tips of the week that will be going on for the rest of the semester. That could be very helpful to not just students, but the university community as a whole. And I have some apps. These should be free apps. I actually use the sleep cycle apps for myself because since I have a family member who has sleep apnea, unfortunately, there's a higher chance that I may get it. I don't know what that percentage is, but it just comes to a place. So these are some apps that would be very helpful. You guys can write this down and try them out. But these are some apps that I found very useful, and I heard people use these apps, and these are apps that can really not even just affect your sleep, but other factors as well, and help understand the importance of sleep. So these are just my references. So that's the end of the presentation in the webinar. Does anyone have any questions that they may want to ask me during this time?
One quick question I have, Jaylen, what would you say would be your best tip that you would provide to a student who's got a really large course load to really try to get the best sleep they can, especially during this pandemic when they're online?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what's important when it comes to this is really prioritize what you have going on, right? So and this can be difficult, and it also can depend on the classes, of course. So really prioritize what your workload is. So really be more organized and being able to take into account that you have other factors that may be going on. So really, I could use myself for an example. So I'm a graduate student. I'm a graduate assistant, and I also have my counseling internship. So what's more important for me? Well, obviously is classes, and then take into account what's more workload when it comes to between my counseling internship and my graduate assistant. Well, for me, it's the counseling internship because one, I have to drive 50 minutes from Athens, but not right now, obviously. But for the COVID-19, it's just really being able to prioritize your workload and being able to understand that that so for one class may not be as meaningful, not saying meaningful in a way it doesn't matter, but you may know the information already know, so really go into depth of another class that you may lack the knowledge of. Or what you can do and this is something that I've done in the past, is for an example, if I have a long day on a Monday, I don't even worry about classes that day. I really worry about my own self care, which can be just getting a workout in, going for a walk, or just laying down resting. So that's another example that students can do, is pick days where they may have more time, and then really buckle down getting work. And then obviously if they have a long day, really take into account getting sleep, especially during this time, and because of the COVID-19 and obviously social distancing and all that good stuff. So does that answer your question?
Thank you. I appreciate that, Jaylen.
Absolutely. Does anybody else have any questions?
Hey, I had a question. I'm a fellow counseling student also, but in my first year. Um, so anyway, I have a hard time sometimes just getting onto like a good sleep schedule. I mean, right now my sleep schedule has been pretty terrible with everything going on. I've just been staying up way too late and sleeping in, and even if I'm getting enough sleep, I just don't feel as good doing that as when I am getting up early and going to bed earlier. And I was just wondering if you had any suggestions for like getting back on a good sleep schedule after not having good habits for a little while.
Absolutely. I'm gonna actually ask you a question. If you don't mind sharing, if you're not comfortable sharing, that's perfectly fine. What is your sleep schedule like now?
It kind of varies. There's days, and this is just over the past couple weeks with what's been going on, where I'll be up and like pretty much till the middle of the night. I mean, like 4 in the morning, and then get up at like 10 or 12 even. Sometimes I'll then have to like get up earlier, maybe for like a training or something or a
Yeah, absolutely.
class, and I'll think, okay, well, at least I'll be tired today, but then I'll be able to go to bed early and get back on a schedule. But then for some reason I have a hard time sleeping or something, even if I should be tired enough.
Right. So, thank you. Actually, first of all, thank you for sharing that. I really do appreciate it. So, what has helped me gain good sleeping habits, and this might sound a little bit cliche, is I start nitpicking a little bit. And what I mean by that is, like, for an example, I would, like, I had a bad tendency actually, of laying down, getting on my phone. Like, I would lay down, I would plan myself, like, oh, I'm gonna sleep at this time. But naturally, I would get on my phone, and next thing you know, it's midnight, and you know, I had to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, whatever the case may be. And we probably all have been through that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I have done naturally is I will put stuff away, like away. I'm particularly just referring to, like, say, my bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
What I would do is that I would maybe put my phone as far away as possible. And what that does is it actually signals your brain to go to sleep right then and there. Because actually, like the light of a phone, cell phone, laptop, whatever the case may be, keeps that light actually wakes, it keeps waking up your signals to your brain. And more than likely that light is going to affect the way of you having to go to sleep. So it keeps you up at night. And what I also learned is actually when you wake up in the morning, and as soon as you wake up in the morning and you make your bed, as soon as you wake up in the morning, you're more than likely are going to get more tired at night, and all you're going to want to do is sleep. There's actually research behind that, that I actually found I think maybe it was like last month or a month and a half ago. So there's just small things that and it's all about you. Everybody's different. I'm just giving myself an example, but that's how it worked for me. But just small things like that is very helpful because it's like I keep mentioning, it signals the brain to get good sleep and not having to stay up all night and all that stuff. Because small things like that can really affect your sleep, and most people don't really know that. And also, there's other factors come into play, like healthy eating, um, how you feeling at that very moment. There's more things that come into play too, but those are just basic things when it comes to it. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody else have any questions at the moment? Okay, well, if nobody has any questions, I'm going to stop the recording here.